Hello, everyone. My name is Ango. I'm the program coordinator of the Benilde Film program. I'm here to substitute first for Direct Joy Reyes, our program chair, who is currently engaged in other matters. So I'm here to do the introduction for our talk, Documentary Filmmaking in the Philippines, the Future of Documentary. The program has always been encouraging of our students for the students to take up documentary, as it is one of the most dynamic and versatile filmmaking forms. And there's so much avenues for documentary filmmakers today. Some amazing work is being done in the field of documentary, and we are excited to be able to have this talk for us right now, for us to see all of the possibilities that are available in the field of documentary filmmaking here in the Philippines. I'd like to introduce to you our moderator, who will be introducing our guests. She has been teaching at the, she has been teaching at De La Salle College of St. Benilde in the film department since 2012, for 10 years already. Not only is she a film educator, she's a director and a writer and a producer. She is a laureate of the Ani ng Dangal Award for Cinema given by the NCCA. She's also a film reviewer. She's also a film and media consultant working with the DOST, Department of Information Communication and Technology, Department of Education, and other branches in the government. She's a filmmaking fellow of the Asian Film Academy of the Busan International Film Festival, a writer, director, fellow, and trainee of the Asian Film Professional Training Program of the Korean Film Council, and is co-author of the CoFix Asian Film Industry book back in 2010. With no further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today, Ms. Rianne Soriano.
Thank you very much, Sir Wango. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. It is a privilege for us to have our speakers for today's Benilde Film Talks, focusing on documentary filmmaking in the Philippines and its future. So it is my honor to present to you our two speakers for today. First, we have Baby Ruth Villarama, who is the director behind Sunday Beauty Queen, the first documentary that rose above a pool of narrative films in the groundbreaking 2016 Metro Manila Film Festival, winning Best Picture. Her first independent film, Jazz in Love, was the first documentary film that opened the prestigious 2013 Cinemalaya Film Festival, a film that championed LGBT causes. She's part of a team that put up Voyage Studios and Filipino Documentary Society, or PhilDocs, organizations that champion independent films and documentaries to the Filipino audience and festivals. She is currently a board officer of the Directors Guild of the Philippines and a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, voting for the Oscars. Ladies and gentlemen, filmmaker Baby Ruth Villarama. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for gracing our event.
I know,
it
it's
is
so
a
nice
great
to see you again.
It's so nice to see you again, Baby Ruth. Thank you for this opportunity to be part of Benilde Film Talks. There. And also, we have Cara Maligsanoc-Alikpala, a broadcast journalist, documentary filmmaker, and impact producer. She co-founded Storytellers International Incorporated, and she is also a contributing producer to CNN International, ARD German TV, and ARD German Radio, and is founding president of the Filipino Documentary Society, or PhilDocs. She produced the critically acclaimed documentary Batas Militar. To date, it has been the highest rated independent documentary broadcast in Philippine television. The documentary swept all major awards in the Philippines, and it was a finalist at the International Documentary Festival in Amsterdam and at the New York Festival. She also produced the multi-awarded Call Her Ganda that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival and Hot Docs. She has produced documentaries for the History Channel, ARD German Television, the Australian Broadcasting Company, Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, and the Probe Team. She has reported to the Public Broadcasting Service, Voice of America, and ABS-CBN. She has been jury at the News and Documentary category of the Emmys since 2000. She is also a member of the Global Impact Producers Group. A cancer patient advocate, She became the founding president of the I Can Serve Foundation, a nonprofit organization that helps women with breast cancer. She's also the co-chairman of Cancer Coalition Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, filmmaker Cara Magsanoc-Alikpala. So good afternoon, and it's an honor for us to have you as one of our speakers for today's Benilde Film Talks.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for inviting. Hi, baby Ruth.
Hello. Parang hindi tayo nag-usap kagabi.
Oh.
So there, for the information of everyone, we will have a 1-hour open forum, followed by a 20-minute Q&A, then the awarding of certificates, followed by other announcements from our host organization, Benilde Filmworks. So I think at this point, let's go straight to our forum, as I'm sure everyone is really looking forward to this part of the program. So again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Baby Ruth and Cara for being here. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be with you for this event. And for our two speakers, any one of you can answer the questions. Either of you can go first. So let's start. All right. Thank you very much, Baby Ruth. I'm sure our film kids right now are very much interested in how this short documentary was produced, and if it was produced during the pandemic already.
Yes, it's a pandemic short. Actually, we just finished the film a few weeks ago, last March 13. So this is like a sneak preview of the film. We haven't really, we're still fine-tuning some scenes and some, as you can see, the subtitle is not yet, perfect. So I can still see some, oh my God, spell check. So I just want to share the film with you guys as a sneak preview so we can get your, feedback or explore, some scenes that you think we still need to shoot. So it's really just a short break from us because, we've been stuck inside our caves for so long doing digital engagements like this one. And I had this grant from the British Council from 2020, which I have not utilized yet. So I came up with this idea, and then I got in touch with some friends in the UK because I studied there for a while. We came up with this short story, something to inspire people and filmmakers like you guys. So it's possible to create a film now, thanks to technology.
So the camera operators, those who filmed there, were colleagues of yours, or were you able to go there as well?
No, I made that film inside, my studio here in Mandaluyong, where I am at the moment. We've worked with Mark in the past. He's one of our Voyage filmmakers, for our past projects here and there. So that's the idea that, we're doing because of the pandemic. We've activated our partners, our networks. I'm sure you know this, Rianne, because you also did some of your animation projects. Kahit, we're hiding inside where we are. Everything was done remotely. Tuloy lang. And we did not meet physically, as in everything was done via Zoom, WhatsApp. Even the camera angles, we just talk about it and then best trust na lang, how the footage will come up. And we did the post-production here in the Philippines. So that's how the partnership went. Production there with them, Rise Research did manage the production. And then suppose dito na natin niluto sa Philippines. So they sent all the footage here in the Philippines.
So yung mga film kids dito, kayang makapag-produce ng pelikula despite the challenges that we are experiencing right now. And thanks to technology, it makes all these things possible nga. So the timeline of the production from conceptualization until nakapag-release kayo ng itong version na ito for sneak review, it took maybe around how many months again para lang may idea yung mga kids?
We started doing research around August because August was the month when UK officially opened up somehow. Kasi lockdown din dun eh. So I remember August 1st, pwede nang mag-meet up sa mga pubs. So we used that opportunity to attend community events in the UK. Not me, but our partners in Rise Research. So we sort of navigated that. And then that's where, they met the couple, May and Lucas. And apparently, May and Lucas are also undergoing, some transition because May's mother passed away due to COVID. So it was a difficult time for her. And it was a realization also that, oh my God, I have to follow what's in my heart for so long because she realized that life is so short. And I guess after working for 10 years as a nurse, she wanted to really try something else. And Lucas said that May is very good with massage and all that. So she wants to open a spa like Celeste in her garage so that she can spend more time with her kids because her life is short. So, and then we just explored the idea na do you want to sort of document it? And we form some sort of friendship. And yeah, we followed, their boundaries, what are the things that we can shoot or we can't shoot. And they were very accommodating naman. So, yan yung mga footage that we had so far.
Okay. I'm sure maraming mga tanong itong mga students namin about this. So again, i-remind natin that you guys can parang type in sa Slido yung inyong mga tanong. So we will reserve those questions with regards to the film, more about the film, like yung kung gaano ka ano yung interest nyo pa sa paggawa ng ganitong klase ng pelikula. Lalo na kayo yung mga mag-documentary track, no, or specialization. So siguro ngayon mag-focus tayo sa yung sa bigger picture muna of documentary filmmaking in the Philippines. So kasi nga for Benilde Film, since we have a specialization for documentary filmmaking, and we believe that this forum will really be a good platform for our students to learn more about documentary production. So I would like to ask both of you, what is the current state of documentary filmmaking in the country?
Cara, hello, are you there?
Cara.
We're just talking about this yet.
Go ahead, baby Ruth.
Well, it's very much I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I feel, this is my personal opinion, I feel it's sort of stuck at the moment because of of lockdown and the protocols and also the resources that's lacking at the moment. And cinemas are closed, so there is no distribution outlet. So those four reasons, it becomes more challenging for many filmmakers at the moment. But despite of that, there are still filmmakers who are making their films. So they took the events that are happening around them to film something. And of course, the reality is grants are not readily available here in the country. But I've shared this with you guys in class. The grants that are usually possible are the grants elsewhere. So use google.com to search for it. And if your story is something that can be somehow, universally accessible or, relevant to your culture or to the sectors that you are representing, there are grants that you can apply to. Of course, you have to pitch and you have to do all those decks and presentation. Pag-aaralan niyo yan sa klase, tinuturo siguro sa inyo how to make decks and the dossier. Those are part of it. And yeah, these grants reviewers will really review the story that you are presenting if there is a solid, foundation to it that's worth, their time and your time also.
Thank you. Cara, may idadagdag po kayo?
Oo, tama naman si Baby Ruth, no? It's kind of stuck, but so are the narratives or the fiction film because of the pandemic. Lahat ng tao hirap sa pera, so budgets are really bad. But in general, parang documentary is really medyo dehado siya sa narrative, di ba? I mean, even here, baka iba sa inyo napilitan kasi parang ang documentaries, gulay, di ba? Parang, ay, ako, boring. Ito na naman, didactic, lecture, hindi siya entertaining. But that's not true. You have to watch enough documentaries to know that they don't have to be boring. And also, I challenge all of you who want to be documentaries to make your storytelling really engaging. If something is really boring, it's probably our fault. But talagang may potential siya, hindi pa siya tap talaga in this country. The documentary hasn't reached that status. In other countries, you see as many people in the theaters for a documentary film as much as a narrative. They really talk about it as if that we're one and the same. Dito wala pa. Hindi kami makapenetrate nga ng cinemas eh. Si Sunday Beauty Queen lang ang documentary na naipalabas sa theater, and yet Baby Ruth will tell you, inapi-api sila ng mga theater owners. Without giving it a chance, ang perception ng theater owners, ay naku, hindi to kikita. Kahit nanalo yan ng film festival, ilagay natin sa patay na oras, or minsan iniiba-iba yung schedule. So, there's so much we have to do to advocate for the status. That's why a few years ago, actually 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Baby Ruth and I and 2 other filmmaker friends put up a foundation called Philippine Documentary Society to really just promote the love for documentaries and hopefully to really provide an avenue and a pathway for all filmmakers to succeed. So it was an experiment. Hopefully we get there so that we can all really have a very sustainable ecosystem. But yes, you have to love you have to love making documentaries to be able to do it because hindi ka talaga yayaman dito, but it's very rewarding because the power of a documentary to really drive change, it's so powerful. I mean, nung pinanood nyo lang natin yung film ni Baby Ruth, kahit hindi magandang connection, nagsastop, parang gusto mo na magpa-massage, parang gusto mo mag-abroad, parang, you tend to put your shoes on in different people's lives right away, di ba? Parang the empathy is so great as opposed to kung binasa ko lang yan sa libro, it's different when you see the power of images. You're transported, like, na-relax ako, iba yung color temperature ng UK and all that. I mean, so ang daming potential ng documentary. It's still untapped. So we hope for those who love it to really help us push this form of storytelling. But yes, it's hard to film these days. You have to stay safe. That's a priority.
Definitely. Actually, may nabasa ako recently in terms of the demands. Parang nag-increase daw yung demands ng documentary sa online streaming platforms. I've read something about actually sa site ng Netflix, yung Tadom ba yun? And yung sa Time, nabasa ko na may nagkaroon daw ng increase ng demand for those really watching documentaries during the time of the pandemic. Would you agree po na naramdaman nyo rin ba na parang nagkaroon ng mas maraming taong gustong makapanood ng documentary somehow through online platforms?
Yeah, it was such an interesting transition for the genre. I even received an email last night from the Academy because we just finished voting, and this year's was the biggest turnout of votes and also the highest number of documentaries submitted. So what does that mean? Ibig sabihin, ang daming gumawa ng documentary films all over the world. Maaring, they've been doing it for the past 5 years, 10 years, we don't know, but they decided to submit it last year to even be considered. And that is saying something. And I guess this pandemic really opened our eyes in so many angles. With the things that we are encouraged to turn our eyes away from, but because, as I said, life is short, this is the realization. We have to give focus to the things that matter. And in this world where everybody's so isolated, the filmmakers are turning their lens into, the truth that we all need to hear, that we have to be kinder to one another, and we have to focus on, I guess, the non-glitz of life, the reality of life, and how to use this reality to inspire each other. I mean, my God, namamatay yung mga tao, there is war going, the election here in the Philippines is so crazy. But how will we know that if no one will document that? And how will we learn from the lessons of our history kung hindi natin re-reviewin, through a proper documentary film? And last night, I even watched this new film from Asif Kapadia, the director of the documentary film Amy. I guess because of the pandemic, he spent his entire life editing footage of 1971, lahat na nangyari noong 1971 in America, in the UK, in Europe. And he used the power of music to connect all these materials. And he was able to create something so powerful, how music transcended that part of our history in 1971. At kahit hindi pa tayo pinapanganak noon, parang nakarelate tayo, and it's so universally accessible pala yung pinagdaanan ng mga parents natin nung time na yun, the hippies, the drugs, rock and roll, Rolling Stone, and then the political instability na mas wild. And I was able to go into that part of history because of these documentaries. It's on Netflix, 1971. Check it out. So, ganon. So, I'm sure, Asif did it sa library lang niya, or, sa kwarto lang niya, nag-edit lang siya ng mga footage na meron siya. Or, he researched on. So, ang galing lang.
Oh, Miss Cara, naka-mute.
Yeah, I agree. During the
Yeah.
pandemic, parang nabigyan ng pagkakataon ng mga documentaries na magpakitang gilas kasi no choice nasa bahay ang mga tao. But these are what they saw, on TV, mga Netflix, Amazon. But locally, we still didn't get the chance the way our foreign counterparts got. I mean, there's still inequality in the way grants are given abroad. Some production houses or countries are favored, so there are movements like there are Asian groups abroad that are trying to push for this, to make the distribution of grants more evenly. Locally, during the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of money still for documentaries. I mean, even the content, they'd rather get narratives, comedies. I mean, in fact, swerte nga yung mga films na hindi pinapanood sa Philippines, biglang napanood, naging hit, naging viral and all that. But what you would see during the pandemic, maraming parang short amateur documentaries on YouTube or on Facebook. That's also a documentary. Nakakatuwa. People would document what they would do just being locked down, or putting together footage they have at home. There may not be a lot, but there should be a lot. People shouldn't be intimidated na kesyo hindi ito papalabas sa sine or sa formal, TV station. There are all these platforms now that you can utilize, and you get even sometimes a bigger audience than if it were on a mainstream platform. So marami siyang pagkakataon ngayon. But I really hope those who are watching on Netflix and Amazon are seeing the different possibilities of documentaries. It opened their eyes to something else.
That's true. Kailan ba yun? Siguro mga last week may nakita ako. I think we can consider it documentary. Actually, dahil sa pandemic, nagkakaroon ng mga non-traditional ways of storytelling for documentaries that I've been noticing really. And I think it has something to do with the fact na, we are so limited because we can't readily go out and magastos, magpa-swab, yung risk. So, parang sabi nga nila, di ba, when you're when you're more limited, it's like the more creative you become. So parang yun yung mga non-traditional ways of telling stories. Pati yung klase ng mga napapanood sa Facebook, like I think that was last week. With regards to the war in Ukraine, there was this 16-year-old girl. Parang TikTok style dinocument niya yung sarili niya. Napanood ko lang sa Facebook. Parang few days, I think mga 5 days na every time na sa siren yung magbobombahan, tapos magtatago sila. I-document niya yung sarili niya. Tapos yung after nun, yung babalik na sa bahay, tapos okay naman daw yung bahay nila. There was one point there na nakapag-makeup siya bago niya i-video yung sarili. She's 16 years old. Tapos yun, yung sakit, habang nagsasalita siya, she's just using her phone, and very powerful, and it's just less than 5 minutes long. And yun nga, parang nag-iiba rin po talaga yung ngayon, no? Yung klase ng yung mga klase ng pagkukwento, very raw na TikTok style yung ginawa niya. So it was really something that struck me, naalala ko na ito nga, magkakaroon tayo nitong event na to. So with regards to that, ano yung mga so far na experience nyo ng mga alternative ways of storytelling, like sa mga maybe sa projects nyo or your colleagues, like other than the usual that we had before pandemic, meron bang mga bagong lumalabas na forms, other visuals? Like for example, kay Baby Ruth, I saw Tao Po, which is yeah, I think that's one example also. So we would love to hear more about your experiences in these kinds of productions na na-encounter nyo during the pandemic.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking that. There is definitely an intersectionality of disciplines. Kasi wala babasagin mo lahat ng rules kasi nga the rules are not working anymore. How can you make a film when you're not even encouraged to meet together because the stake of getting the virus is so high. So, syempre, the theaters are closed, the cinemas are closed. So, may mag-uusap-usap ngayon yung mga tao, the industry, even the music community will really speak together and decide what can we do to elevate the craft and at the same time continue expressing ourselves as artists. So ang daming possibility. I mean the Ukrainian TikTok documentary that you just mentioned, that's a new form of telling a documentary. And I noticed that in this age, the new normal, let's call it the new normal, uh, even the subjects themselves are more active and participative in directing their part of the story kasi they are the one who is the focus of the lens. So right now, as I mean, if you notice with Chasing Dreams, it's really the kid and the family who's filming. They're filming each other because they decided to create a vlog. May vlog sila actually as a family kasi nga it's pandemic. Wala silang magawa. So, ginagamit nila yon and gusto rin nila maging part ng documentary in that sense. So, nagkaroon ng ganong participatory element yung mga subjects. So, that's one thing. And, you go deeper You go deeper beyond the black and white of issues. Ang dami kasing gray areas na hindi na pag-uusapan. And the mental health aspect of the filmmaker, the subject, na nahihiya kasi parang, naku, pag sinabi ko to, baka sabihin, ang arte-arte ko naman. Naku, pag pinakita ko to, baka sabihin, hindi ako mabuting tao. It's not that. I mean, it's okay. There is strength in showing your vulnerability and admitting, to your weaknesses. Because once you admit, and show your weaknesses, nobody can use it against you. That's one thing I realized, while working on the field. Kahit ako as a filmmaker before, parang ang ano ko kasi galing ako sa journalism na, 'di ba? Black and white, may villain, may bida, may ganon. So sa totoong buhay walang ganon. All of us are imperfect. At as documentary filmmakers, hindi rin lahat makaka-capture natin. Kasi at the end of the day, iniiwanan din naman natin yung mga subjects natin. At minsan yung totoong kwento lumalabas pag wala na tayo. So we allow them to also film themselves kung gusto nila. And nagkaroon ng ganong elevation, I think.
Yeah, I think people had to get creative. I mean, Baby Ruth said a lot. I'll just add, like, for instance, I got a documentary grant and I was part of this lab. And nagulat ako, yung isang documentary grantee, yung kanyang concept is a podcast. I mean, documentary grantee siya, pero podcast yung kanya. And then sinisingitan na lang ng mga video or pictures. And I've seen it locally also. Some podcasts have gotten creatively kind of doing a documentary. Or like kami, I'm working with someone who's in the States and this was during the lockdown and no one had the vaccine. So we had to use the old style filming in the 70s or 80s where you have a green screen and then you let the scenes play behind, the interviewee. Parang ganon. Kasi nga, so there's less people flying in and being exposed. And I mean, I really wanted not to ever interview someone on Zoom for a documentary. Pero napilitan kami kasi nga yung kausap namin 80 plus years old. And you don't want to compromise that person's safety. So, we're directing the family members of that interviewee how to set up whatever available lights they have at home. Yung ganon, you just really had to get creative, but all these limitations is making you creative, parang making you find ways to really just get that story told. And kasi wala namang pangit na storya talaga in the end. I mean, it's always nice to see a perfectly flawless production visually, but also, sometimes the story trumps it all, especially now. I would put importance on the storytelling talaga, even though your technique can't be great, especially now with all the limitations. Or for those who are budget challenged, but you can't afford cameras, maybe a cell phone that's not so high end. But yeah, none of these should be a limitation to your fantastic stories that only you can tell. And that's the other thing. You have to choose a story that, only you can tell in the way you can. Something really a unique perspective you have that you can bring onto the table.
Thank you very much. So, ayan, mas na-inspire na itong mga batang ito. So, I think at this point, maganda rin. I think they would love to hear your own stories on how you found yourself in this path. Kasi sila nagsisimula pa lang. Karamihan ito, mga magbe-venture pa lang. So, sa documentary filmmaking. How did you get into making documentaries, the two of you? Ayun.
Go, Kara. Mas nauna ka.
No, ikaw muna.
Mas nauna ka, tapos napanood ko yung film mo. Tsaka ako
Oh,
din
no.
na-inspire.
100 years old na ako. First, magsha-shoutout ako sa mas matanda sa akin, si Tina Tubong Banwa. Where are you, Tina? Professor ninyo.
Tama si Tina.
Naghahanap
Hi,
ng
si Tina.
kadamay.
Hi, Tina.
First teacher, Tina.
Hi.
Mas matanda ka sa akin. Now, I know you're running out of time also. So I'm not gonna say, I'll make the long story short. I did not go to film school. My studies were all focused on print journalism. But when I came into the scene, parang TV was so exciting at the time. Parang the genre was just bursting with all these magazine shows. Magazine format ang tawag kasi parang magazine siya talaga, short stories or 15-minute stories. And then I joined this show called The Probe Team kasi it looked so exciting. Parang I turned my back against print journalism after 2 years. Nabitin ako sa kwentuhan, parang napaka-flat nung medium. So I joined The Probe Team. And those were 15-minute stories. And then I joined ABS-CBN and I reported for the news. So there, ang reporting naman 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes or less. And then I realized I wanted the longer format. So I started to do documentaries for ABS-CBN and also for CNN International. So I think that's where I really realized I wanted to do documentaries. I wanted an issue really exhausted and promoted. So my training and exposure was really to TV documentary. So it was very news and reportage based, hindi pa siya very creative. And even back in the day, the only documentaries you would watch were on television. Yun lang talaga. So whenever I would be jury for some documentaries, lahat ng itsura nila kamukha ng news. So it's like, oh, these guys are not getting creative, but also they're only doing what they see. And then through the years, the independent documentary scene, kind of exploded. They were expressing themselves and being distributed in alternative venues. We would be able to watch them, be exposed to them. And then there was the digital, explosion. So people were watching documentaries from abroad. They were exposed to more styles. So even me, parang I kind of drifted from the news-based documentaries to more creative and independent documentary filmmaking. But having said that, all those forms I like, all those forms are acceptable. Wala sa akin na pangit na documentary talaga. So yun, that was my path. And so I just want to also encourage people who never studied film, perhaps in fact you're all studying film, that in the end, it's really, if you want it, you can find a way to learn more about it. And really doing it is how you learn more, and watching a lot of documentaries. That's how you learn. So yun, I didn't want to bore you with my whole story, but that was my entry point, television. And I think also my background in print wasn't put to waste because it still helped me. It enhanced a different way of, it brought in a new perspective in also documentary filmmaking. Go ahead, BB, before I talk some more.
No, I think he said it. Kara's experience is like the history of documentary filmmaking here in the Philippines, which is so exciting. I watched Kara's documentary Batas Militar when I was in grade 4. Channel 2 ba yun or something, or 7. So parang ako, oh my God, ano to? Parang, wala na, woke na ako. And then grade 6, minsan lang sila bata by Ditsi Carolino. So I think the school played a big role, in my dreams, because I will never have access to minsan lang sila bata if, my school did not decide to show it to the class. So nagkaroon ng ganong awakening at such a young age. But then hindi ko ma-define ano yung form na yon. So I took up journalism, same as Kara. Yun, print journalism, dyaryo, yun yung background namin, news. And then I took up my internship sa Reuters. So talagang nabugbog kami ng current events, talagang from one event to the next. But ang bilis-bilis lang. And then I ended up working sa ABS-CBN, sa Kalaban ng Pro, which is People. I started as a transcriber, just reviewing all the tape interviews, 10 hours of interviews, tinatranscribe ko. Doon ko na-experience yung nauubos yung tinta ng ballpen. Panda, talaga, while writing it, kasi wala akong laptop noon. So pinatranscribe ko lang. And I would choose good sound bites or potential sound bites for the producer to choose. So may highlighter pa ako noon. And then I would just observe, journalists do their stuff and interview people. And ang na-amaze lang ako how, people that you don't know would bare their soul in front of you just by asking the right question. So I tried my best to learn the basic 5 W's and 1 H and learn how to ask them properly. Hindi yung parang tinanong mo lang just to loot, answers from them. I want to curiously ask them because I want people to understand them. Kasi the people that we document, they're outside the ordinary. Diba? Kaya nga, document natin sila because they're photographable and they have something to share to the world. So if you ask them the right question, they will really bare their soul because these people have something to say and they want to be part of that change na lahat tayo gustong makita, gustong maranasan. And then like Cara, dahil na we're part of the pipeline sa TV, nabitin talaga ako. Parang there's really no chance to really understand their world. And I mean, if hindi ako umalis ng TV, hindi ko magagawa yung Sunday Beauty Queen and Jazz in Love the way I wanted to do it na, long form and also mas mahaba lang yung pagtingin with analysis and with in-depth research. So, mahalaga sa akin yung research kasi doon din ako nag-start. Even with this film, I partnered with a research creative group in the UK. Kasi without good research, medyo shallow yung foundation ng kwento mo eh. So yun lang. And then naging consistent lang ako. I feel like I'm still learning and, just like you, I was a student and I'm still a student of life right now. So I'm also chasing my dream to become a better filmmaker. At hindi natatapos yun. Cara and I spoke, I think last night, parang hindi ko alam kung natanong ba, ano ang pinakamahirap na ginawa mo sa buhay mo? Sabi niya parang lahat mahirap. Every new project is like, parang, zero. Para start sa square one ka palagi. So, ganun lang.
Can I just add, may pa-plug lang ako. May project kami ni Baby Ruth and our friends sa Filipino Documentary Society. There's a website we're building. It's the docu.ph. We're trying to build a database of different documentary films. Kasi nga, if you want to watch a film, parang saan mapapanoorin, di ba? Walang mabibiling kopya. It's really not online. So we're building this database and hopefully when we get the consent of filmmakers, they'll allow us to be able to give access to people, maybe for a minimal fee. We don't know yet, but we're still building that database. So I hope you can watch out for that. It's theangdocu.ph.
Yes, the website is live. Dito lang, the other day, we put it live. So search nyo lang, you can play around it and be part of that growing community because we need more storytellers now, especially now that we are really defining the future of our country. Kumbaga, ihabi na natin yung kwento na gusto natin malaman ng mundo, ng kapwa natin about our country. So, documentary yung magsasabi nun. And Cara has an event tomorrow. Ako na magpa-plug sa event mo. Tomorrow, part din ng Docu Power. There's a voters education talk where schools are invited actually. It will be hosted by Jeff Canoy and Antoinette Hadaune. So we're trying to really connect the worlds of documentary, non-fiction and fiction, to be able to serve the community better. Anong oras yun, Cara? 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock?
7 p.m. Yeah.
7 p.m.
Yeah. It's part of a film festival called the Docu. Ayan, wow, salamat. Docu Power,
Thank
salamat.
you.
Yeah, so all the films are free. Check na lang the Facebook page for the schedule. Maraming award-winning films. And then the final day, April 9, it's an in-person showing by the Oscar's Best Bet for Best Documentary this year. It's called Writing with Fire, done by Indian filmmakers. Tapos may pa-concert na libre, different bands, whose themes will also be a continuation of the story of other films where we feature the burning issues that the youth should consider when they select their candidates. So that's Docu Power. Watch the films for free.
It's a one-time screening, guys. So it's now or never. Ilang araw lang kami pinayagan. Like for this week, Silence of Others. And yeah. And for Writing with Fire, one-time physical screening lang. So kita-kita tayo sa CHR grounds in Quezon City. Maybe it's quite far from you, but it's worth it, promise. We'll all be there.
Yeah, maganda yung Silence of Others. It's about the dictatorship in Spain and how the victims are coping. One victim was able to jail his torturer. Pinaghirapan niya, but he had to have that guy prosecuted in another country. And then another thing we found out during that dictatorship, the babies were kidnapped. So there was a time, pag bagong panganak ka, sasabihan ka na lang, ay, namatay na yung baby. Was there like, can I see the baby? They never get to see the babies. Yung pala, si Mr. Dictator, si General Franco, would have the babies kidnapped and give them to his allies who were childless couples or for clinical trials. So grabe yung kanilang human rights victims doon na dinaanan. So there are a lot of parallels with what's happening to us or what happened to us during martial law. So try to watch it. There's also an interview with a filmmaker, si Almudena. Galing ng interview with Sheila Coronel. So I hope you can watch that if this weekend.
Yes. Yeah.
Napaka-interesting na may mga ganito ng parang avenues, mga alternative distribution means to distribute, no? Na dati wala tayo, very limited, kung meron man dati, very limited talaga, like sa mga film festivals. Ngayon, mas marami ng mga events na nakakapag mas napapakita yung mga ganitong mga work. So I think napakahalaga nun, lalo na sa mga students, because magkakaroon sila ng more exposure beyond the confines of classroom or the confines of Zoom. So
Yeah.
right now,
I mean, if you really want to be inspired and you're looking for your purpose in life, watch these documentaries. I mean, this weekend, watch Silence of Others, and then Writing with Fire. Oh my God! When I saw that film, sabi ko kailangan manalo to. I don't know if it will win the Academy, but it's the first Indian nominated documentaries. They made history with this film, and it was done using cell phones. Android pa nga eh. It's a story about young female, yung mga lowest sa caste system nila. And they decided to put up a newspaper, a media, community media, parang Rappler pero mas maliit lang. And they were able to change so many things hanggang sa nakarating na sila sa politics, national politics ng India, because they just tried and pushed themselves to be part of that, that social change that they've been longing to experience. And it's such a very powerful film. I encourage you to be part of that. April 9, 5 p.m. onwards.
oh, okay. So bukod doon, dito rin marami tayong mga, halimbawa ngayon sa political landscape natin, may mga lumalabas din ng mga local documentary films na for free in a limited time merong ipinapalabas, di ba? So sana ma-take advantage ito ng mga, lalo na ng mga students natin. Yung iba doon, pinapapanood namin sa mga klase namin, nire-require namin. So yun, very interesting. Sayang, yes po, I'm sorry, parang gusto ko rin sanang itanong more on the history, kaya lang kukulangin tayo ng oras. Sabi kasi ni Baby Ruth, yung sa history ng documentary, I wish we have more time. But yeah, maybe for another opportunity like this. With regards to the Docu, I was able to attend virtually yung nangyari. I believe this is also the same as what we had last year, kasi napanood ko yun eh. Yung hindi lahat, pero marami kasi mga webinars doon, yung kay Sir Nick, napanood ko yun eh. So ang dami ko natutunan doon. Grabe yun, nabot ng gabi. Sabi ko, ilang oras tong Zoom na to, naglobat na ako at lahat. So yun, napakadaming pwedeng matutunan sa documentary. It's also nice that you, si Baby Ruth talked about asking the right question. I think very essential yon, lalo na pag nagsisimula ka, kung paano mo makukuha. Kasi minsan meron parang nagpa-perform sa simula hanggang you get used to it na parang nagiging smooth na. So yon. But now, I would like to pivot a bit about, let's talk about the legal matters involved in making documentary films, like contracts, confidentiality agreements, release forms, among many others. Like, how important are these, and which one should be considered or oftentimes parang non-negotiable, kailangan meron talaga, meaning they should always be part of documentary production, because these students of course should really know these things, because legal matters matter. So yon, we would love to hear from you about this.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's pretty much standard na to documentary production. When we do international co-production with television networks, part na yon, NDA. So it's just really a one-page document that would really protect you guys from future headaches. And it's more of a consent na parehas kayong pumapayag na, gawin tong project na to together, and your subject is comfortable to be filmed and recorded. That one page will really save you. And most of the time, international distributors will not pick up your film if wala ka ng mga errors and omissions, mga insurance. And part of that requirement is yung mga NDA, yung mga contracts nyo with your partners, with your producers. And yeah, very basic naman siya. Of course, the terms are so legally confusing sometimes. But there are lawyers naman who can guide you. Magtanong na kayo sa mga pinsan yung abogado, matutulungan kayo. Even us, ako, as a filmmaker, hilong-hilo ko sa mga terms sa contract. But yeah, babasahin ko lang siya, but I will still, refer it to yung mga talagang abogado talaga para guided din, and to protect everybody. Kasi ang contract naman hindi lang para sa iyo, hindi lang para sa subject nyo, but para din sa mga partners nyo, especially sa mga funders nyo. Kasi they also need assurance na magde-deliver kayo at the end of the day. And professionalism is so important. Yung sinasabi ko, yung consistency. You're only as good as your last project. So, it doesn't mean that if I did Sunday Beauty Queen, I can fuck up my next project. No, Sunday Beauty Queen is a long history already. I'm now in the middle of a very difficult project. So, pag hindi ko to na-pull off, wala. Sira yung reputation, ng mga napaghirapan mo in the past. So, be consistent in your craft and keep on improving. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask help, and try to work with the best people in the industry. Kasi most of the time, alam mo yun, nagbibigay sila ng payo, and they'll be more than happy to help you out, guys, and provide the services that you might need.
Yeah, this is the part of documentary filmmaking that I hate. Masyadong masalimuot. We call it a release form. So anyone you interview, you have to let them sign. It's basically saying they agreed and that they allow you to use it maybe in perpetuity or for 10 years or 5 years for different formats. So you have to specify what format. Is it VOD? Is it this or that? The time, you have to define it as well. And you have to also define that it's only for this purpose. You cannot all of a sudden use that footage for another project without their consent. So you also get a location release. So wherever you shoot, you get the permission of the owner, unless it's a public place. But sometimes you still do need permits for public places. You have a materials release. If you use the photos or home videos of your interviews, you have to get them to sign off that as well. Even yung mga extra, yung may dumaan lang, you also need to get a release form from them. And then when you do, I think especially when your documentary is very controversial, yung sinabi ni David, errors and omission, it's an insurance for anything that might come up. No? And also music, you have to be conscious when you use music. Somebody composed that, somebody, did instrumentation for that, someone did the lyrics. You have to pay for every single person involved in that. So sometimes you're interviewing someone and in the background, there's a faint music playing from the sari-sari store. Pag-ingatan mo yun kasi baka kasuhan ka, you're not conscious of it. You didn't score to that, pero nandun siya sa background. Pwede rin kayong singilin for that. So besides music, even when you do archival video, when you get video from TV stations, ideally you cannot just grab anything you see on the internet. May bayad yan. In fact, whenever we do videos from abroad, mga $75 a second yan. Napakamahal. Even with ABS-CBN and GMA, you pay at least $3,000 for a certain number of minutes. Mahal siya talaga. So try to shoot as many originals as you can, or you just really have to set aside a budget for these things.
Ayan, so maraming natutunan ha. Yung release forms, kasi madalas ang iniisip ng students sa release forms, madalas kasi narrative yung ginagawa, so controlled yung tao. So ngayon, pag documentary, may passerby, ayun, parang as per what they said, kailangan may release form din yun. Lalo na kung, of course, kung gagamitin yun, kailangan talaga. So, yun, lalo na pag international, very sila niyan, pag may producer ka na kasi dito minsan, aminin natin lalo na pag minsan napapalagpas yung mga ganyan. I think maganda na i-practice na masanay na yung mga estudyante na do it right, diba? So, yun nga, about the use of copyrighted content, intellectual property So, rights and acquired materials, library footage, sound effects, even music, and a lot parang other archive sources, no? So now with regards to
Sorry, I want to add
ownership
something.
naman. Yes.
Sorry. Not
Yes,
not everyone will be willing to sign that release form. It can be frustrating kasi pag nabasa mo, medyo nakaka-intimidate. Kasi
yes, that's true.
it also says parang I waive my rights not to sue the film. May mga ganun, the filmmakers,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. So there was one documentary I was doing for the History Channel, and I was able to get the consent of the ABSECOM, the people that guarded Ninoy Aquino going down the tarmac before he was assassinated. Ninoy Aquino was in their care when he was assassinated. And it took me so long to court them to say yes. Siguro ilang buwan niya nagpupunta ako sa Bilibid Prison, kasama sa prayer meeting, nag-holding hands ako, nagpe-praise and all. And then when we got there, the lawyer just said, no, no, no. And so we called the History Channel guys based in Singapore, and we said, our production team is willing to waive our rights if in case we're sued. But History Channel talagang ayaw, risk-averse talaga. So we lost that interview. So may ganon talaga. But you never know. Kunyari si Ramona Diaz interviewed, I think, Imelda. And later on, she was sued. And Imelda said, but I didn't consent to that interview. But here's the release form. So you never know. Kasi when you're doing it, parang, uy, friends naman kami ng interviewees. Hindi naman sila. But you never know talaga. It may not even be the interview, but someone later down the line. So you have to protect yourself because if you get sued, nako, bankrupt ka talaga. Or baka makulong ka pa. Diba?
Ayaw
I
makulong,
know,
no?
yeah. I mean, especially sa
Yes.
location. Sometimes, di ba, parang tayo bara-bara lang na, sige, shoot na kayo para matapos na kayo. I mean, just one page, don't forget. Just ask them na pumapayag yung location na to. Sometimes kasi may mga nahahagip na brands na, and then the topic pala of your documentary, is not incongruent with the core value of that brand. I mean, you might get into a sticky situation there. Kahit yung mga drone shot, especially drone shot, I did a very different top in Mindanao, and nahagip yung Iglesia ni Cristo na church. Hala, ayan na, sinusugod na kami ng mga alagad ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa hotel namin later in the day. So we had to show the footage to them. It's not about your church. It's really about this small mechanic store na nasa, actually across the church. So since nag-drone, they had to investigate what the story about, ano daw yun, baka, may mga ma-discover. So, may mga ganon. And protect your footage. Always do a backup. I-save nyo from your card to 2 different hard drives. At wag yung pagsamahin yung hard drives sa isang lugar. Give it to your mother, give it to your, to the post house that you're working with. Basta magkahiwalay sila in case the impossible happen. Protected yung footage nyo. Kasi kahit anong galing at ganda ng shot nyo, kung nawala ang footage, walang na-shoot. Wala kayong kwento.
The archivists have a 3-to-1 rule. 3-to-1 rule when you store. Parang 3 formats, 3 copies, 2 formats, and at least 1 is stored remotely, not with you.
Yung ngayon nga madalas yung merong offline, meron ding cloud. Hanggat maaari kasi iba rin pag may cloud, at least meron kang online na mahahanap kung sakali mang may mangyari talaga dun sa And true yun yung mga may mga places na hindi na very sensitive. Like ako nag-shoot ako one time sa Museo Pambata. Katabi ng US Embassy.
Oh no.
Pumunta yung mga police, iniimbestiga yung yun, ganyan-ganyan. Which is, naayos naman namin kasi hindi naman kami nag-shoot sa labas, sa loob, may wall naman, pero i-shoot sa kanila. Tapos one time passing by, embassy rin, Thailand ba? Or nakalimutan ko na. Yun din, hinabol yung van. So, kasi nga kumuha ng footage, nahagip yung yung facade. So, talagang may mga gano'n na I can just imagine sa mga documentary filmmakers, mas maraming yung ganun. Ako, Diyos ko. Kailangan talaga marunong kang handle ng ganun.
Oh, basta ano lang, stay calm and carry on. Don't panic and never give up your footage kahit anong mangyari. Kung bibigay mo man silang copy, but dapat may kopya ka. But we don't. Sometimes we just pretend we erase it. Ganun na lang. Pero
may
I mean,
magandang
yeah. I mean,
Yes,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah. I don't want to give the impression na gagamitin yun sa isang project na wala silang consent. As long as, the story is so unrelated to them, you don't have to worry about anything. Sila yung praning.
And you can justify naman. And I think maganda sa technology ngayon, kung may budget, may mga cameras kasi na kaya may wifi. So, while you're filming, nagka-cloud na siya, nag-upload na sa cloud. So, kung sakali man na may mangyaring masama sa hard drive, sa SD card, meron ka na somewhere there. So, kahit i-delete mo, pag dinelete mo, hindi talaga siya deleted. Because you have something in the cloud. So, yeah, yun din yung ng technology ngayon. So, anyway, in relation to these, with regards to films ownership naman tayo and sharing rights. Kasi syempre may mga certain producers na nagkakaroon ng sharing para magkaroon ng ideas yung mga students. Like, how does this go? Yung mga co-productions, yung mga, of course, kung commercial producer yung mag-produce ng film or independent productions. Of course, mas familiar kasi sila sa the likes of Cinemalaya, ganyan, or even Cinema One Originals. Pero yung halimbawa mga co-productions and grants here and abroad, especially abroad, kasi alam ko meron yung mga certain sharing. Ayun.
Oh my God, I think this takes another session to explain the story.
Oh.
But I'll try my best to explain it within the documentary realm na lang. When it comes to co-production, it comes in I guess various tiers. One is commission. If you're doing a project as a commission project, you don't have a share. You don't have a copyright on the materials. Once you get paid, the project belongs to the one who commissioned you, the TV network or whoever. But right now, there's also an interesting shift in paradigm a little bit because of the pandemic. Like some international networks, they give you a sort of like a parang parang co-commission or something, co-prod na commission. They get the rights to their country territory, by handling you an equivalent amount of your production budget or a small amount of the production budget. In exchange, they get the rights to their home country. And then you get the rights elsewhere in your home country and in other territories. So may ganon. So that's parang co-production in a way. But here in the Philippines, kasi most of us as filmmakers, we don't have the capacity to distribute our own content. So we deal with studios who that has the capacity to distribute. Ang tricky lang dito is sometimes, based on my experience as Sunday Beauty Queen, the documentary gets treated as a narrative film. Ang rule kasi dito sa mga distributors here, sa mga big studios, they get 50% share. Kahit ikaw yung naghanap ng funding mo to produce your film. But because they are the one marketing it and distributing it, and they have the network sa mga cinemas, or they have ownership on the platform that they will show your film. So that's the starting asking, kumbaga, sharing. But you can always negotiate with it. Hindi siya yung end all na parang pag sinabing parang take it or leave it. You can always negotiate. So ang fair sa akin is kung magkano yung amount na ni-raise mo, then that's your share sa copyright. And then kung magkano yung amount na ibibigay ng co-producer mo, then that's their share sa copyright. So for example, if Globe Studio will give you 20% of your production budget, then maybe they'll get 20%. You can offer that 20% share sa copyright. But you can always negotiate that. Kung ano yung, kumbaga, strength nila, ng partners mo, na pwede nilang ibigay sa project mo. But yun yung parang onset. Ang dami. And then, of course, if you want to go fully independent, like Cinemalaya, they give you a certain grant. How much na bang grant ngayon? 700,000, 800,000 pesos. So the film is yours. Now, if you need more budget for your film, syempre you invite co-producers. So sometimes studios come in, oh, I'll give you 1.5 or 2 million as add-on, but I get a share of film. I get the distribution rights, or I get the first position. What is first position? First position is, kung ano man yung kinita ng film mo, sila yung first position na dapat ma-recoup nila yung in-invest nila sa film mo before you can even get your share sa film. So, yun yung overview. So, Cara, feel free to add.
No, comprehensive na yung sinabi mo, Baby Ruth. But having said that, I think it can be improved some more. Parang talo yung filmmakers eh. Kasi you cannot quantify your creative ideas, your creative thought, the collaborative team, creative thought. I mean, di ba? Hindi mo quantify eh. And yet, when you deal with these partners, sa kanila black and white lang, di ba? Pera lang talaga, marketing, distribution. But what about, I thought of this idea, I conceptualized this, I lived with this idea for 6 years. O asan yan, di ba? You cannot quantify that. So there should be a premium or a value put on that. So hopefully moving forward, we can put a premium on that. And also having said it, I have done some documentaries, very few, na talagang kami na totally may-ari ng rights. So we only went to grant-giving bodies na ayaw makialam sa copyright. Yon. As much as possible, if you can, or get to that point later as you're doing things more and more, sana pwede nyo i-own yung rights ng film nyo totally. That's the best ideal situation. But of course, if there's a good project for commission projects, go ahead. If the story has impact, it has a purpose, it's gonna change society and make a difference, go for it.
Okay, so actually, medyo nagkukulang na tayo sa oras in as much as ang daming gandang pag-usapan, no? So, I'm down to my last 2 questions. Siguro, sabihin ko na silang dalawa, baka kasi pwede rin itay yung pwedeng tie up yung pwede yung response dito. So, I want to go to the ethical and humanitarian considerations in documentary films, particularly what are the types of negotiations na expected with subjects? Like, do you pay subjects in cash or in kind? Is that even ethical? Alam ko medyo tricky yung paano sagutin yung ganitong issue, and I really know that the students would really appreciate how to, at least kahit overview in a nutshell, how to go about these things. And then the last question being, yung in terms of distribution and yung impact campaign in documentary films. So for those who are just starting, how do you think they should start with that? Para aware din sila how to go about it. So may pelikula ka. So after that, what's next? So yun yung last 2 questions natin for this afternoon, for the forum. Yun. So
Cara, you want to answer first?
Yung dalawang question, the first question is hard to answer. Do we pay the subjects? Yes. It's hard to answer. Kasi marami nagsasabi, don't pay the interviewees. Ideally talaga yan. Because sasabihin nila, you pay them to say what you wanted. Diba? Yun eh. So kami, we generally don't pay the interviewees. But syempre makita mo, halos lahat ng interviews sa akin, mahihirap. So nagpapakain kami, or parang may thank you gift. Kasi you also take time away from them. Nagtatrabaho rin yung mga yan eh. So may income loss rin yan, di ba? So kami, parang may gifts in kind. And then sometimes, later on, as part of an impact campaign, let's say, your story merits legal assistance for your interviewee. So when we show the film, we don't mind encouraging a campaign to fundraise for them. Pero by the time, tapos na yung film, di ba? They will be receiving financial assistance, and they didn't receive it during production. Sa dulo na yon, di ba? So, but it's really masalimut. It's really very controversial what to do about that. It gets very controversial. And then the other one, what was your question about the impact campaign specifically? What did you want to know?
How do you, since we have students who are just starting, I think they're not very familiar with what impact campaign is yet. Na after you have a film, a documentary film, how do you go about it? How can they partner with certain, let's say, organizations? Yung idea, kahit yung overview how this thing goes.
Yung concept ng impact campaign, actually bago rin siya, bago sa mundo. It's not marketing, it's not promotions. You do want to increase your audience, just like marketing and promo, but you want to increase your audience to a community that will really benefit from the topic, to a community that can help you drive change. And of course, it also assumes that the film you did has a social justice theme or a certain advocacy you want promoted or a change you want to espouse. So for instance, we did a story on Call Her Ganda, LGBT ang crowd yan. So kunyari you have a film, you try to build a community, you try to build coalitions around the campaign. So kunyari si Baby Ruth, I helped her impact campaign for Sunday Beauty Queen. So we put together mga lawmakers who can help make the lives of the OFWs in Hong Kong much better. We also met lawyers who were willing to go there and volunteer their services. We also met with someone like May Paner who could. No, we met with someone, si Susan Ople, who was she's willing to do mental health wellness for the OFW. So there was all this support around them to help not only the subject matter but to promote. So even we are advocating for the setting up of a department of OFWs, which is actually happening now. And we're not the one responsible for it, pero naki-join in kami sa campaign to make that happen. So, yung gano'n, that's the life after your documentary. And in fact, ang uso ngayon, at least abroad because they can afford, may impact campaign producer ka sa umpisa pa lang at kasama na siya sa budget, hindi siya afterthought. It's really part of the life of your documentary. And ako personally, this is why I do documentaries. I'm more after the impact. So I really like social justice themed films or themes that have advocacy angles. So but it's basically that. Mahabang usapan yan eh. But you know, it's very exciting and interesting because it really drives change. I mean, why make a film? Of course, others just want to do it for awareness or maybe just, you know, self-expression. But that's just not the kind of films I'm interested in. But yeah. In a nutshell, because I know we're running out of time. Baby Ruth.
Yes.
Over to you.
Yun na yun. Oo, yun na yun. No, yeah. It's very tricky. I always believe there is strength in numbers. And we really have to help each other win. Ang problema kasi sa atin, di ba, we keep on competing against each other. Wala na yon, ibang generation na yon. Like ko sinasabi sa mga tao, you know, you can't compete with me because I also want you to win. And sa lahat ng mga estudyante ko, pag nanalo kayo or naging successful kayo, it's also my victory. Kasi nga parang, you know, we're in this together. And that's the secret if we want documentary films to succeed here in the Philippines and also our film industry in general. We have to help each other. Kung ano yung weakness mo, maghanap ka dyan sa kaklase mo. Ano yung strength mo? Match tayo. Mag-barter trade tayo. Kung sino marunong mag-impact campaign dyan, o sige, kung sino marunong mag-edit, gumawa ng trailer kahit wala pang pelikula, simulan nyo na yung impact campaign. Tama si Cara, sa simula pa lang nandiyan na yan. Even yung mga Marvel movies, ang kalaban natin dito talaga yung mga Western contents na they are decades advanced from us. At nasa kanila talaga yung you know, economical power when it comes to film distribution, film production. Sila kasi nagdi-dictate eh. And lahat sila may hold sa mga cinemas. Kumbaga, may global network na sila. Eh tayo, dito pa lang pumapalo. And I mean, I still consider ourselves as a community industry. Kumbaga, nasa grassroots pa tayo and we're taking our baby steps. So we really have to help each other kung gusto natin maging successful. In terms of paying the subject, it depends. Sa UK, the short film that we just saw, Chasing Dreams, it's a culture sa UK because we're taking their time off from their work, they're giving their time with us. We have to pay. At yun yung sinabi sa akin ng filmmaker at ng Rice Research. And kumbaga, tinanong na nila yung character na, sa simula. And yung iba naman sabi, no, it's okay, we're happy to do this. But nandun yung offer. Na it's an offer actually, hindi yung parang, meron kami pong rate, ganito yung rate, ganito na yung may bibigay. No, it's an offer na if you think we need to pay you, let us know. May ganun silang culture doon. Pero sa atin, wala yun eh. But for me, I'm more of a humanitarian than a filmmaker. Kasi like yung sa Sunday Beauty Queen, yung nawala ng trabaho, I mean, we all felt that. Ini-interview namin siya, pero wala siyang pambili ng regalo sa anak niya kinabukasan. Wala siyang pampadala sa family. So, anong gagawin namin? Ini-interview namin, we're taking, a day from her 14 days para makahanap ng trabaho. So, we decided to gather all our lunch money. Wala kaming pang lunch noon. Even yung Japanese producer namin, magbigay ka, ibigay natin kasi we don't know, kung paano makakatulong. So, may mga ganong instances na nagde-decide kami na let's give it. Pero it's not the rule. Kasi nga, you're building a relationship with your character and you want to, to prioritize the editorial integrity of your story. Pero kung sa tingin mo makakatulong ka, like itong ABS-CBN documentary, mga nawalan ng trabaho, cameraman na hindi alam kung saan kukuha ng pang-enroll sa anak niya, you have to find ways. Hindi namin in-offer, but at the end nung journey namin with him, nagpadala kami ng portion of the production budget, pang tulong sa kanya, parang 10,000 pesos ata. Kumbaga yun yung maluwag sa amin at kaya ng budget namin. But we offered that after we're finished filming sa kanila. Pero yung iba, like, sino Doris Bigornia, ako may insulto pa yung pagbigyan mo ng pera. So you have to be careful also.
Ay, Kara, naka-mute.
So when you do a film, kailangan clear sa head mo yung values talaga. Kasi you'll make your own judgment call. Now, I just wanted to add, when you do your own films sa mga students, hindi naman single issue yan. So kunyari, gumawa ako ng film, Call Her Ganda, about this transgender woman killed by an American military. So ang daming issues nun. Women's issue, human rights issue, LGBT issue. So yung ganon. So we approach the different groups. We had what you call a brain trust. You talk to them about the issues. Then you lend your film for them to use for their own, purposes. So hindi lang sinasabi na I'll promote the causes of our film, but we distribute it to other groups, interest groups who can use it. So that's what you can do with your films. Examine the different groups who will have an interest in the issues you tackle in your film. So, and you'll be surprised. It will multiply among an audience that the issues really resonate with them, and you'll really be driving change, which was the intention of your film.
Oo. Like ngayon, Sunday Beauty Queen, may screening sa Napolcom. Like, I don't know, kung mga police, because, they want to celebrate Women's Month, and they decided to screen Sunday Beauty Queen. So by 2:30, medyo nilipat na ako ng Zoom. Pero wala pa naman, hindi pa naman ako tinatawag. So go lang.
Ayun, so wag na tayo magpatumpik-tumpik sa ating Q&A. I think merong sino mag-share nung sa yung sa Slido? Kayo na ba? Or paano ba? Meron na ba sa Slido? Or
yes, Miss, we have questions po sa Slido. Do you have access po, Miss? Or do you want
Yes,
me?
I can share naman. I can share. Ay, post disabled participant screen sharing. Kayo na lang. Yan, para makasimula na tayo sa Q&A. Maganda na galing sa inyo. This is a not so na opportunity na makausap natin itong dalawang stalwart sa documentary filmmaking natin ngayon. So, ayun.
Oh wow, look
Okay,
at this.
so suppose the documentary is a hit and maliit hit and wins many awards. Do the people who shared their life for the documentary benefit from the extra money earned?
Wala kaming prize money.
May prize money ba? Parang wala namang prize money.
Oo. Siguro magpapakain lang, but kawawa kang documentaries, walang prize money eh.
Wala. Siguro,
yung iba, ang tanong,
iba naman sa narratives eh.
Hindi kami parang nagba-box office hit, whatever. But I'll answer it siguro based from the Sunday Beauty Queen experience because the film sort of earned 12 million daw sa box office. Pero personally, hindi ko nakita yung 12 million na yun. We gave it to the producers kasi sila yung, did the marketing, the distribution of the film. Ang sa amin lang mabawi lang yung production cost and all that. And ang pinaka meron kami is every screenings that we have, portion of that goes to Bitoon House. Kasi merong, di ba, yung sa Sunday Beauty Queen, there is a shelter that we featured. So, lifelong na yung relationship namin with the shelter para magkaroon din ng legs and reason and purpose yung film. And even Daddy Leo, na nagkaroon na ng Lenny Robredo Award, story ng pag-asa, MJ na imbitahan sa Amerika, ngayon she's based there now. So, ganun yung yung impact na it's not monetary. Kasi wala din naman ako maibibigay as a filmmaker. And it depends on the producer. Kung ibibigay man ng producer yon, portion of that, kasi nasa contract na siguro yon na kahit yung sa mga community screenings, yung form, yung request form, portion of the screening fees will go to Bitoon House. And we always encourage them to donate to Bitoon House para mas makakatulog ako ng maayos sa gabi.
Actually may nagtanong, do you accept interns daw? I think it's
Yes,
also
yes,
worthwhile
yes.
to still so yes daw. So yung mga
Oo.
gustong ma-expose na get your feet wet in documentaries.
Yeah.
Be
Jenna
careful what
knows
you
how
wish
to-
for.
Jenna knows how to contact me. Oo. Baka magalit yung mga
Okay, great.
parents niya sa amin. Yeah, Jenna, bahala ka na.
O sige. Ayan, how do you approach subjects and get them to become more natural, comfortable, or open to the cameras?
Magpe-prayer meeting daw, sabi ni Cara. Hindi.
No, kami, we spend a lot of time with them before we put them on camera. They have to work. I mean,
True.
even ikaw naman ikaw rin naman, biglang tutukan ka ng camera, tapos di mo kilala, then they ask you personal questions. So it always helps to spend time with them before you put them on
Yeah.
cam, so that they forget that the camera's there when you start rolling.
Yeah. I mean, with Jazz in Love, 6 months kaming nag-aral ng Deutsch language together, with or without a camera. Hanggang sa parang nasanay na lang.
But there's some
Immersion.
people who are really natural sa camera. Actually, a lot of Pinoy subject matter sanay sa camera, sa totoo lang. They're very natural on cam.
And spend
yeah.
time and be sincere.
Diba?
Oo.
Okay, how do you approach the ethics of documentary filmmaking if the people in it don't like the final output? Oh, yeah. Do you scrap it altogether or release it?
I haven't experienced this. I make sure that they will like it. I try not to show it to them in advance, but I always make sure sila yung unang makakakita. During the premiere night, they're there. Or kasabay silang manonood pag premiere night na. Para, merong, parang part sila nung way that you're releasing the documentary into the universe. But wala pa naman ako na-experience na ganito.
Yeah, pretty much. Kaya lang ang hindi nakakagusto ng film namin, yung mga tinatamaan namin. Wala naman
sila.
Wala naman silang say sa storytelling. Yun. So marami akong kagalit. I do a lot of investigative stuff.
Okay, so when documenting a story containing controversial concepts, abuse, sex work, racism, how do you balance being raw without glorifying the problem? Nandun ang mga tanong niya.
No, it's good. It's a good question. You keep it real.
Lalim.
Yeah, you keep it real and you protect your subject. Because, if you know the purpose of your documentary, what's the intention? If you want to win awards and go to festival, don't do documentaries because, you're not giving proper credit to your integrity and the integrity of the subject and the community that you want to represent. But if you want to be a messenger of social change or a messenger of their voices, kahit na wala mo na yung change, it's so impossible, it's so hard. But to be their voice using your lens, then it's gonna be fine if you are sincere about it and do it right. Kasi, you gotta, once you spend time with them, maiintindihan mo lahat ng colors, lahat ng spectrum nila, then you can never go wrong. Now, you choose anong spectrum yung ipapakita mo. Like with some of the films, we din nakaka-capture namin yung mga sex footage nila, murahan, whatever. And then sa post-production, nandun yung major responsibility. Okay, ano yung ipapakita natin at ano yung hindi. So, kung kailangan ipakita yung murahan, now we have to argue and debate among ourselves. Bakit natin kailangan ipakita yung murahan, yung ganito, yung, there has to be a deep reason kung bakit. So, know that reason.
Again, it goes back to kailangan clear yung intention mo for your film without forgetting that the people you're dealing with are human beings. Kasi ikaw, years from now, months from now, you won't be as involved with them even though you try to be. Pero sila, they'll continue to live their lives that way. Whatever plight that was, andun pa rin sila. In fact, if it was in my case, an investigative film, their lives are still at risk. So you have to be very careful when handling their stories. And you have to balance. Sometimes, wow, ang ganda nitong visual, no? It's going to really tell the story. But if it's going to harm the subject matter, give up that aesthetic that you want so much to put on screen. Kailangan balance lagi. You always have to protect your subject matters. I mean, they gave you their heart and soul. Wag mo naman sila ipahamak, no?
Oo. Balance.
So where do you find stories? How do you find people that have stories that fit your vision or concept?
Wala. Lumabas ka ng bahay mo, huwag kang mag-drive, mag-commute ka, talk to people from all, levels of life. If you want to feature, actually walang masyado nag-feature ng behind the billions of, the rich people in society. Baka kayo may access doon. I would love to see that world. Madalas kasi na documentary na papanood dati, puro poverty, community issue. But kung saan ka comfortable, and I don't also want you guys to pretend kung hindi naman yun yung mundo nyo. That's the last thing that we want you guys to do, a story na hindi kayo masaya. I mean, Cara is comfortable and so passionate with investigative documentaries. I'm so passionate about intercultural relationships, people, migrant workers, changing the perspective of the Filipino people, Filipino diaspora. May kanya-kanya tayong passion eh. So kung ano yung gusto nyo i-highlight, i-champion, go for it and do it excellently. Parang ang natutunan ko kay Bing Lao, and these are not my phrase, but I want to share it with you. Do not aim for perfection because it doesn't exist at madidisappoint ka lang. But aim for excellency. Be excellent.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Parang do the stories you want to do. Huwag mong pilitin na kesa uso siya or hot. Get something that really resonates with you because you're going to dream about that. You're going to have nightmares about it. You're going to live with that documentary forever and ever. So dapat type mo yung issue. It's something you really want to advocate for, a story you really want to tell. And you never really, I don't know how to answer that question, how to fit it to your vision. You never fit the story into your vision. In fact, when you come into an issue or a topic, you keep it that open. And as you investigate, talk to people, scour the landscape, research, and then your vision slowly is shaped by what you see. But you do not come in with a vision and have everything, all the pieces fit into that vision. Unlike narratives, papasok ka naka-storyboard. Ito hindi naka-storyboard yung kwento mo talaga. The story gets shaped as you go along, getting to know the story and the elements of the story.
Yeah, I think napakahalaga nun kasi karamihan sanay sa narratives. So parang yung initial nila sa paggawa ng documentary, parang may paghuhugutan sila na narrative, may storyboard, may script, parang may vision in your head from the concept. So sa documentary, iba yung pagbuo nung kwento.
Iba.
Ayun, so,
para kang nasa Animal Planet. Use your background in cinematography and photography to capture yung moments the best way possible. Use the rule of thirds. Alam niyo naman yan, tinuro sa klase nyo. And then, you wait. I really wait for the right moment. Kahit yung bus lang na dadaan sa bundok, my God, sometimes 2 hours kami naka-stake out sa likod ng puno ng buko, just waiting for the bus kasi ang ganda ng shot. Or sometimes nag-uusap yung mag-anak. We cannot make pakialam. We're just rolling our camera and waiting for that moment. At pag nandun na yung moment na yun, oh my God, and makapture mo siya. Grabe, cathartic yung experience. So, be patient and yeah. Yun yung magic sa documentary. Yun yung parang how you capture these moments, raw moments siya.
So don't come into a story with preconceived notions. Parang take away all your preconceived notions about a story. You come in clean slate talaga.
Ayan. So, yun nga, organic ng process talaga, no? Parang may impromptu mess to it na parang, you'll be surprised during production and post-production that, something just happened at yun yung part ng magiging kwento. So, ayun. So, how do you plan on making documentaries more appealing to the Filipino audience and to local cinemas and theaters? Yung sa local cinemas and theaters ngayon, medyo mahirap yan. Pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. But, yeah, maybe we can, the questions, like, siguro, kahit hindi sa cinemas. Although, medyo na-discuss na yun kanina, I think. Diba? So, or
make it as beautiful as possible. Yun lang naman yung sa akin. I mean, I made Sunday Beauty Queen not to please theater owners or not to, please the not actually, it's not really to please, but to share something with the Filipino audience. And ang main intention ko talaga for Sunday Beauty Queen is for the relatives of these migrant workers to fully understand what it means to be away from them. Kasi alam natin, di ba, nagpapadala ng balikbayan box, monthly allowance. But ano yun? Di ba? Alam natin mahirap, but ano yun? Di ba? Visually, ano yun? Ano yung hirap na yun? And then, ano yung bittersweet na yun? And nung yung nakita namin yun, gusto ko lang siyang i-share. And then, ang ganda nung nakita namin. So, gusto ko lang siyang i-share. And then, of course, there's science to it. Siyempre, hindi naman parang, ano ba to? Ano lang ako, self-expression, gusto ko lang i-share. Because there is, a certain thing as impact distribution. And, we have to follow then the current structure of film distribution here in the Philippines. So, na-science siya with the help of the sectors na like Shock, Cara, the media, traditional and alternative social media. So, ngayon, ang labanan, hindi naman yung sino yung, di ba, pinakasikat. Ang labanan ngayon kung sino yung pinakatotoo. So, we remain as honest and, minsan nga parang nawibirdohan na siguro yung mga tao sa akin. Parang sobrang honest naman ito. Ayoko maging showbiz just to please people kasi wala yon. As you will die inside if you do that. Be true.
Yeah, another way of being engaging is to really be, I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but the simplest way I can think of is para kang gumagawa ng TV commercial, very single-minded. You have a goal, like Baby Ruth said, sa Sunday Beauty Queen, gusto niyang maparamdam sa mga families ng OFWs what it's like to be away. So yun ang goal niya. So every single shot you take, every story you put in, should advance that story or enhance that feeling that she wants to communicate in the film. Kasi as you're filming, maraming ibang kwento dyan, nakakatuwa, parang manganganak siya na ibang story, ibang film, pero baka it's for another film. So try to make sure that everything you want or intend to communicate is only what you include talaga in the storytelling, because it's easy to get distracted and so many interesting details will come across.
Okay, so this question medyo, so Filipino documentaries to be internationally recognized. So can you give any tips to filmmakers who want to make their works internationally recognized?
Nasagot na rin ito ni Baby Ruth, di ba? We don't do films to be recognized or to receive awards. We don't do it for that.
Yes.
Nagkataon lang na na-invite kami or what. But if they want to know how to join festivals abroad, then that's maybe the question that's easier to answer, which you can Google na lang, how to join these festivals.
Yeah, and ako ang take ko dyan, like what I tell my students also, yung internationally recognized, babalik din sa sinabi nga nila na, ano bang purpose mo, ba't ka gumawang pelikula? Para kanino ba? Unang-una sa lahat, sino ba ang gusto mong kwentuhan? Napaka-importante nun. Ako, bilang halimbawa, isang filmmaker, gusto kong kwentuhan ng mga Pilipino. Diba? So, doon tayo sa, ang audience natin Filipino, it can just be more like parang nag-expand lang na recognize internationally, pero sa palagay ko lang I don't know if others would agree to me, magkwento tayo para sa sariling atin. 'Di ba? Lalabas yun at magsusoar high even outside the country if you are honest, just like what Baby Ruth just said kanina. So, yun yung sa akin. Kasi yung question mismo, parang, do you want to please others? Kasi it's may ganon, kaya parang may issue rin ako dun sa question. And it's good that it was opened because it's nice that we have discourse like this na mapaisip kayo, lalo na yung mga estudyante, para kanino ba yung ginagawa niyong kwento. Napaka-importante nun. So, yun. Okay,
well
wala
said,
tayong oras.
said.
Ayun, so, babalik tayo sa Benilde Film Works. Again, napaka makabuluhang hapon ito, no? So I would like to take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude for spending time for us in this forum, this Q&A. So may I ask the representatives from Benilde Film Works for the awarding of certificates.
And thank you so much po, Miss Rianne, Miss Baby Ruth, and Miss Cara for that very insightful discussion. Super dami pa pong actually nagtanong sa website natin, but that's all the time we have. To our participants, thank you for sending in your questions. Hopefully, in our next event, masagot din natin yan. So moving forward, we would like to award this Certificate of Appreciation to Ms. Rianne Soriano for imparting her knowledge, time, and effort in moderating this open forum entitled Documentary Filmmaking in the Philippines, held via Zoom, given this 25th day of March 2022. Ayan, so bigyan natin ng round of applause to Miss Rianne. And of course,
Salamat.
we would also like to award this certificate of appreciation to Miss Baby Ruth Villarama and to Miss Cara Maligsanoc-Alikpala for imparting their knowledge, time, and expertise in being a guest speaker today. Once again, thank you po.